Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of AWS She Builds Tech Skills Program of North America. So, my name is Claire Holly, and I'm a solutions architect leader for mid to large enterprise accounts in the Northeast across different industries here at AWS. For those of you joining for the first time, just want to tell you a little bit about the program. The whole thing about AWS She Builds was that they wanted to create an inclusive and technical skills development program aimed to empower women, people who identify as women, and underrepresented communities to build STEM careers while developing them into future leaders in technology. We also aim to highlight our customers, and the reason why is that many of whom are actually women, and they're making an amazing impact in the field of technology. Today, I'm here with my lovely co host, Candace. Candace, say hi and please tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, hi. I'm Candace Bohannon. I am based in Minneapolis, and I'm a solutions architect. And I've been here for just a little over 2 years. So I support large enterprise customers, kind of, helping them with their learning new parts of AWS and helping them optimize those and how do we do things most efficiently. So that's kind of what my day job is. And I've been part of She Builds now for about a year, almost a year. My first episode that I got to be part of was at behind the scenes at reInvent last year, and now we're getting ready for that again this year. So really happy to be here on another show with you, Claire.
Me too, Candace. So, for those of you who don't know, Candace, like Candace was saying, she's been part of us, part of our core team now we just started in 2022. And Candace has been with us on that journey right from the beginning. So great to have her on board. So, one of the things I wanted to talk to about today are hackathons. Hackathons have been popping up all over. How many people actually know what a hackathon is? If you know about any hackathons, please put in that chat. But for those of you who don't know, the nice thing about hackathons, it kind of creates a space where it brings people with different technical backgrounds together. And what they try to do is solve some type of a problem or a use case, or they try to do a lot of innovating with developing new ideas. And they all get to participate in this, what they call a hackathon, and meet people and work to develop a solution. So earlier, I would say like in Q1, I was able to participate in a hackathon that Blackstone. So Blackstone is actually one of the world's largest alternative asset manager companies. And what they did was they had their first ever Women in Tech hackathon. And one of it was to kind of like grow and inspire their women in tech community, but it was also a great way for them to actually celebrate like the different type of diversity and objectives. So it was about 39 females, and it was right around Valentine's Day. So it's like a Valentine hackathon. I forgot, like Galathon, I think they called it, right? But it was actually pretty cool. And out of it, the winners actually, the whoever's solution won, they actually got to work with AWS, and AWS has a prototyping team that helps you actually build solutions. So they actually was able to work with that team to kind of prototype out their solution. So it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Candace? Have you participated in any?
Yeah, I have actually. So when I was a customer of AWS, when I first got to starting touching AWS, I worked at a company called 3M based here in the Twin Cities. And 3M, you might know them from Post-it notes, you might know them from retroreflective sheeting, like on your stop signs. They make a lot of things. And it's mostly like a materials science, chemistry type of company. But I was always in software there at 3M, and we really wanted to help promote the digital part of the world and, just get more people on board with how do we add a sensor to it? What kind of things would we want to measure? How do we make people's lives better? So when I was in the corporate research lab, we held a couple of hackathons that were cross company. And it was really great because we got all of these different levels of skills, all of these different ideas, marketing people, all kinds of different people came around to participate in these hackathons. Like I would say maybe 1,000 people. It was huge. We rented out the River Center. It was a lot of people. AWS came and helped. Another cloud vendor came and helped. We also had a Deep Racer event. The CTO was like the MC for the Deep Racer event. It was kind of super nerdy cool. Really, really fun. I don't remember who won, but there were lots of cool projects that we did and a lot of networking with people that you probably wouldn't have met otherwise. So it was amazing.
So it's so funny you say that because currently in my segment for AWS, what we're doing is, well, the solution architects across like the East, West, Central, what they're doing is they are coming up with their own generative AI hackathon. I always say Gen AI, but people like to say, no, you want to say generative AI. So we're coming up with our own generative AI hackathon. And to your point, it gave essays the opportunity to learn and be able to pick up some additional skills, how they had to build with Bedrock and also increasing some of their Python knowledge. So it was a great opportunity where they was actually able to put a couple of different use cases together. I mean, some people probably use their own customers' use cases, which is great because now out of that, you kind of have a demo. And what they did, they had kind of maybe 200, they had a large submission and now we're down to the finalists. So we've narrowed down. They competed in the different areas, the different segments. We have about 6 finalists now, and we're actually going to see who the top 3 winners will be tomorrow. So I'm super excited. I'm also co-hosting that as well. So can't wait to see who the winners are. And the cool thing after that is that we're actually going to have demos for people who just want to highlight and showcase their things. So actually pretty cool. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Different.
That's super fun. I love that people are getting to learn new things and getting hands-on with, some of the hottest new technology right now. And I believe one of our She Builds core team members, Jigna, is one of the finalists for the hackathon. So I don't know. That's super cool.
That is, and if you want to catch Jigna, you can always tune into some of our previous episodes that are on YouTube, our YouTube channel, and that'll be dropped in the chat. Oh, there it goes, right there. You can just click and you'll see some of the episodes with her.
Very cool. It also kind of reminds me of Builders Fair. I feel like I need to put in a quick little plug for reInvent and Builders Fair. I've done Builders Fair a couple of times now, at reInvent last year and Reinforce, which is our security conference. But the reason why this is connected a little bit to me is because a hackathon is this opportunity for you to get hands-on the keyboard and learn new stuff. And the Builders Fair is a little segment at our big conferences where you can see projects that our solutions architects and have been working on for the year. So it's not like a dedicated small amount of time, but it is a thing that we've built, and you could come around and see the demos. So one of my friends that I worked with in the last couple of Builders Fair has another project this year, and it is using generative AI to do video captioning. So last year we did image captioning with a serverless application where you can upload an image and it'll give you a caption back. And now they've expanded it to support video captioning as well. So should be a very cool demo. I haven't seen it quite yet, but I know that it'll be great. And here's a quick little banner for reInvent. Go check it out. The schedule just dropped earlier this week as well. So sign up if you're going.
Great. All right, so I think you're going to introduce our next person.
Yeah. So today we are here. We're here for part 2 of Tivity Health's data strategy. So today we have an interview that Claire did with Beth Cooper. She's the VP of Product Engineering and Data Strategy at Tivity. She's got over 20 years of experience in a lot of different areas, mostly related to data, also product engineering. I think client success manager or something like that. She'll tell you in the interview here in just a few moments. But Tivity is a company that is working on wellness and other type of healthcare products. And Beth's team at Tivity Health is on a journey to combine their ecosystem of technologies, the processes, the people, to really create this culture of data as a product. And that's going to help them inform their strategic decisions and support opportunities for additional health or additional growth and expansion at Tivity Health. So it's a really cool data platform that we're going to get to see kind of, reveal what's behind the curtain and get to learn a little bit more about that.
Sounds good. Why don't we just roll the video?
Sure. Oops.
All right, seems we're having a little bit of technical difficulties.
Try
Let's see
again.
if we can add it back.
We'll turn it off and turn it back on. It should come right back.
Well,
Mhm.
sometimes these type of things happen. So, I mean, you just have to prepare for the unexpected, right?
It's like a live demo at a hackathon. You never know what'll happen.
No, you never know what's going to happen. But, sometimes it just does. So let's try it again. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of AWS She Builds Tech Skills North America. For those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Claire Holly, and I lead a team of solution architects for mid to enterprise large accounts in the Northeast, and I will be your host. If you didn't check out our last episode, which you can on YouTube, you heard from Sarah Richardson, who is the Chief Digital and Information Officer at Tivity Health. Sarah explained how Tivity Health has begun a digital transformation of their cloud journey and how Beth Cooper, who is the Vice President of Product Engineering and Data Strategy, was at the center of this transformation. Beth, welcome to our show.
Hi, Claire. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be a part of She Builds.
Thank you, Beth. We have such a wide variety of people in our audience today. Would you mind telling us a bit about your background and how it has prepared you for your current role?
Yeah, absolutely. I started my career 21 years ago in healthcare, and I spent 19 years working in the healthcare system on the IT side of the world, helping to implement EHRs and integration across disparate systems. I functioned as both a data engineer and a product engineer early on in my career and had many opportunities to wear different hats throughout those first 19 years, all the way through a client relationships executive, which allowed me to learn how to strategically build relationships and help to deliver some really cool products and services across the healthcare system. The last 2 years have been spent at Tivity Health on the wellness side. So whereas the healthcare system side is more focused on, do I dare say, sick care of patients, being on the wellness side for members has been an amazing journey the last couple of years to help people stay out of the healthcare system, focus on their wellness, and ensure that we are there to help them both pre and post healthcare.
Beth, that's I remember speaking with Sarah about this. I love the fact that you guys are focusing on the wellness component because as we continue to age on our journey, our own journey, right, our personal journey, we need to make sure that we are balancing our life and taking care of our health. And it's kind of like a work-life balance, right? It's a lifestyle. So I love the fact that Tivity Health is catering to that lifestyle for people who are getting older in age.
Yes, our mission is embodying healthier living and lifestyles, and we live and breathe it within the culture of the organization as much as we do for our members.
Got it. So I understand that you're calling your digital transformation process the Dark Star, like Maverick, Top Gun, right?
Totally. So we started our cloud migration back when Top Gun Maverick was coming out in the theaters. And the plane that is flown by Tom Cruise in the beginning of the movie is called Dark Star, and it reaches speeds of Mach 10. And we have 2 years to get out of our data centers, and actually it's a little bit under 2 years. And so we are moving at what feels like the pace of Mach 10 as it pertains to cloud migration and bringing the organization and culture along with us. And so we definitely took the opportunity to coin our cloud migration project as Dark Star, just to reflect the speed and pace at which we're going and breaking some barriers along the way as we go.
I love that. I'm actually going to bring up the architecture that you guys have so that way you can kind of walk us through it, tell us where you were and where you guys are currently going with your revenue cycle architecture.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our current state revenue cycle architecture. It's part of our cloud migration. It's part of the bigger picture and story, but it's very important because our current revenue cycle architecture is very complex. It takes a lot of operations and maintenance and support to keep it running, honestly. So on the far left of this picture, just to familiarize yourself with Tivity Health, we do both in-person and digital fitness and wellness engagement with our members. Every interaction a member will have with either digital or in-gym experiences creates activity data for us. So what you see on the left-hand side of our architecture here is our activity ingestion process. And in the middle is our activity processing process. And on the far right of this diagram, you'll see our billing, invoicing, and payment processes. A couple of things to point out here. We ingest data real time, but we also have file loads that can be done monthly, bi-monthly at different time frames. And then you can see across our internal on-prem databases, we ETL our data, move it across multiple databases. We have duplication of data. It's created a very complex ecosystem to maintain and operate, as I said. So we are leveraging our AWS Cloud Migration Darkstar to really re-envision what does Tivity Health's revenue cycle architecture look like in the future.
Got it. And you know what? It's interesting because you guys did not just do a traditional lift and shift. It looks like you guys did a lift and shift, and you guys tended to modernize as well. Tell us how you were able to simplify this process.
Yeah, absolutely. So by leveraging AWS native services, we are able to reduce the complexity of our ecosystem for revenue cycle. And you're exactly right. We're not lifting and shifting our current state as a part of Tivity's overall cloud migration. We are refactoring where we can, rewriting, making sure that we use AWS native services first wherever we possibly can, and reduce complexity across the board and allow us to have a future where we can deliver features and functionalities and product much quicker to market than we can today because of our current complexity in our ecosystem and the dependence on IT as it exists. So in this architecture, we are leveraging our S3 data buckets. We're leveraging tools like Lambda and Glue to do our activity processing and rules. And then we're using tools like SageMaker and machine learning to help us automate some very manual processes today. So for example, today, our QA process for activity data can take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. With SageMaker and machine learning, we may be able to cut that down to seconds, minutes, hours, and reduce that manual touch by a human.
Wow, that's amazing to actually be able to see that. So I mean, right now when we look at this architecture, you're using Lambda. I'm assuming now that you guys are leveraging Python, and now for ETL, you're also leveraging Glue, which also takes a programmatic approach as well. I mean, this is really people transformation, right? Because this is new technology for you guys coming from being on-prem and using other services, but coming into a cloud. How are you able to upscale your resources and get them to leverage these new services?
Absolutely. That's a great question. We have a team who, some had minimal AWS experience, some had a little bit more, some have none. And so we have partnered with a couple of third parties to help us with our journey of documenting current state, taking that holistic approach of what do we have today, what are the processes, what are the data flows, and then helping us to translate that into our future state. And the really cool thing is that entire process, we've had both our business and operational teams at the table, as well as IT, to help define that future state on AWS and break down some of our monolithic architectures into microservices and helping the broader teams understand the importance of going in that direction. And we're leveraging opportunities with those third parties who have an extensive amount of AWS experience to do pair programming to help upskill existing developers and QAs, and then also making sure we offer educational opportunities, whether it's through AWS, professional services, or other outlets like Udemy and Plural Insight, where some of the other education can be rounded out as appropriate. So we're trying to make sure that our teams have every opportunity possible to have the opportunity to upskill.
Got it. And now this is really a big, it's like a big transformation for you guys. I mean, it's a journey, but how are you measuring success? There has to be some metrics. I mean, people that are reviewing this, you have people that were stakeholders that saying, let's do this. Some people are like, oh, we're not sure. So how are you guys measuring success then? What are the type of metrics that you're able to give to us today?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I'm going to answer it first from a cloud migration perspective, because it is very important that we're monitoring our budget to deliver our cloud migration Darkstar project as much as it is the timeline. So as I said earlier, we have 2.5 years to get out of our data center. So we are tracking at a percentage level. Every time we take something into or deploy it to AWS, we are increasing our percentage of what's in AWS and decreasing our percentage of what's in the data center. And we're tracking down to business function. How much is it costing to move it? And then how are we tracking against our timeline and remaining weeks in that a little under 2 year period? So that is shared across our business stakeholders on almost a weekly basis so they can see our progress as we're migrating. And that is key to our success and sticking to our timelines and creating that transparency with our business stakeholders. Beyond that, we have a ton of opportunity to create new KPIs once we're complete with cloud migration. So leveraging, with our microservices, we can gain immediate insight into how much each of those services cost Tivity, and to create transparency of what processes are expensive, which ones are in line, and then engage in going back and reconfiguring things to reduce costs by service as appropriate. And AWS gives us the tools to go do that. And then beyond that is continuing to track against uptime and web page load time and things like that, where we absolutely expect to see an improvement.
So I guess what's next? I mean, when I look at this architecture, it looks as if it's in a single region. I'm not sure. How would you ensure that you have designed for resiliency?
Absolutely. So we are working with AWS right now to help us define our disaster recovery strategy. We want to be sure we're using best practices. So we are on the journey as part of cloud migration and cloud governance and operations to define that disaster recovery and make sure we have resiliency across the board so that activity processing is how Tivity drives its revenue and cash in the door. If that goes down, that is significant impact to the business. So by leveraging best practices alongside of AWS and making sure we're following some of the best possible disaster recovery and resiliency, we are ensuring that we have uptime. And if there is something that happens, within seconds, we are up and running versus hours or days.
Beth, being the VP of Product Engineering and Data, that is a very impactful role. I mean, you are driving the direction and strategy for the company. You don't often have too many women leaders in that position. So my question to you is, what are some of the challenges you have faced being in this male-dominated field, having that role specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definite challenges. One of those is not having your voice heard. And I think there's absolute skills to help counter that. But still, even then, there's times where you're just not heard or you're overpowered by other people's opinions or thoughts. And so it's building up that tool set to make sure that you create that presence in the room, whether it's over Zoom or in person or on a phone call. And then how do you communicate in a way that's direct and in a way that your voice can be heard?
And you're absolutely right about that. There's different techniques that you can apply to ensure that your voice is heard, especially when you're in the. So kudos to you for that. And I think my last question is going to be, we have so many different viewers that are watching us. Some come from all different types of backgrounds and their journeys, whether they're starting, maybe they've taken a break, or maybe they're just, they're changing, they're switching careers. How have you been able to stay current in technology and innovate? What would you recommend to people in order to continue to stay current and be able to help innovate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my first rule of thumb is don't do it alone and don't feel like you have to do it by yourself. There are so many resources out there to help along the journey, and don't be afraid to jump in. So number one, there's a ton of resources out there. Use them. There's a ton of others that have gone before you who have tried things, and learning from what they have experienced can help to accelerate, whatever technology we need to go employ. And then leverage, whether it's education, articles, there's a ton out there that's informational, but then create a network of people who are in a similar boat to you, who can help share some of their trepidation or their ideas around how they're going to plan to leverage technology. Leverage within your network those that have gone before you, and don't be afraid to build that network intentionally to bring those types of people into your space with you. And then books and things like that, and continuing to just round out education and knowledge of where the industry is headed. And then there's third-party partners out there like the Gartners of the world and the classes and others that are doing a ton of research. How can you leverage them to help define what's in the hypercycle that can wait a little bit longer to see outcomes versus when to jump in early or wait a little bit longer to see outcomes and how best to implement a technology?
Thank you, Beth. That is such great feedback. And especially the networking part is so key in order to do that. You're not in this alone. So the more that you can leverage the network and be prescriptive with adding additional people to your network is very helpful. So thank you, Beth, for coming here, being a part of the show, and sharing your journey. We truly appreciate it, and we hope that we can have you back again, especially as you guys continue on your journey. We would love to see what's next for the Dark Star. Okay.
Awesome. We'd love to share a journey along the way. The bumps, the bruises, and the wins are all good things, and we look forward to sharing them with the group. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our experience.
No, thank you, Beth, and thank you to our viewers as well. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye. Candace and I like to go back and forth. We're adding and removing people on stage.
We like to help. That's what it is. So that was amazing content. I love data. Anybody who might follow me on LinkedIn, by the way, here's my LinkedIn. Feel free to follow me. I love data. I'm posting about data all the time. I really liked seeing what they're doing behind the scenes. Claire, what do you think was the one of the things that you really enjoyed about Beth's interview?
It's funny how you say data. My background was all about data. It was really a database background. And one of the things that resonated was about their activity processing. So hearing how long their activity processing was taking because it was a manual process for 2 to 3 weeks, I'm envisioning uh, my own scenarios where when we were first coming or on-prem and when we tried to do certain things, like we had to support our developers and come up with new products. And it took us a very long time because being on stagnant hardware, we weren't able to innovate as quickly. And when we were able to finally migrate over to AWS, we definitely took a whole modernized approach, in which case we use Terraform for our infrastructure as code. We use SORT for configuration management. I mean, everybody had to learn Python. It was just, you have to learn Python. There was nothing around it. So, I mean, we was able to create test environments for our developers, our engineers, so that way they can test out the product and give us a quicker turnaround time to actually produce things into the market.
Yeah.
So what about you? What resonates most with you, Candace?
Well, first, I just want to plus one. I love automating all the things. I sometimes say I'm a recovering DevOps engineer. So when we can automate things and make our lives easier, I think that's a good thing. That's kind of why we're in the business. I sort of on the same note, I really like their data sources. They're not like, if you saw at the beginning, that first architecture slide, one of the data sources that kind of stuck out to me was the rings on their Apple Watch. So like, how can we leverage data that already exists and not make our users do something new and still get that data into our platform and do what we need to do with it? So for me, I thought that was a really good approach, not requiring your users to do something different is how you're going to get adoption in your platform. So I really liked that. So if anyone else has any thoughts, anyone in the audience has any thoughts about what resonated with them, or even maybe questions for a special guest, I'm pretty excited to say that we have Beth. She was able to join us. So let me add her here to the stage. Hello, Beth. Welcome back.
Oh, hello, everybody. I'm excited to be back.
Good.
Thank you so much for joining, Beth. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I enjoyed hearing your guys' thoughts and comments on some of the strategies we're using. It sounds like you guys have very similar experiences with improving processes, leveraging AWS to help solve some of those manual data cleansing, checking, duplication processes that can become very heavy and painful for an organization to adhere to.
Yep, for sure. And we have one other special guest that I just want to add here to the stage as well. It's a whole fun group. Sarah.
Welcome, Sarah. Welcome back. It's so great to have everybody on.
I got to I'm in a hotel room in Washington, D.C. So I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get to Beth's podcast today. So I'm so glad I got to see it again. It's wonderful content.
No, great. We're so glad to have you. So we kind of like to ask you a couple of questions. Sorry, but I know nothing too crazy. But one of the things we wanted to ask you is about Coming from an on-prem environment, like you just said, what made you decide to take more of a managed approach solution? Because as we saw, you're leveraging more of these either serverless technologies, you're then coming into like Glue, Lambda. So what kind of made you decide that?
A lot of it has to do with reducing cost and creating efficiencies for the company. So as we're looking at the cost of our on-prem data centers and how expensive that can be, and you can't be scalable necessarily in a data center, you are set with what you've purchased. By leveraging AWS native services, we are allowed and able to scale up, scale down as needed, and leverage some of those native services that allow us to be efficient with what we're trying to do from both a business logic perspective as well as moving data and processing things across the ecosystem that we have. So platforms, products, and services.
Nice. And then kind of going a little level deeper into that and the first thing that you said there, Beth, like I am curious about some of the approaches, techniques, any like best practices that maybe you can share about preparing that data. Like there's a little saying like junk in, junk out, something like that.
Yep.
So what are some of the things that you do to ensure you have good data in your data platform? Because that's so important as we build out machine learning and even generative AI type of things. What are some tips and tricks you can share?
Yeah, so we call it data dumpsters, and we don't want a data dumpster fire. So I'm going to go all the way back to a foundational approach that's even before we even talk about AWS, and that's putting strong data governance in place. So as we're talking about our data journey activity, it's understanding what data do we have? Is it quality? Is it trusted? Has it been duplicated over and over again? What do we have? Let's take stock. Let's get it governed. Let's make sure we're tagging data. Is it PHI? Is it PII? And making sure that the business owns the data and we're there to help them support it and eventually deliver it up in terms of insights and things like that. So that was a foundational approach to how we view our data. And then you fast forward to our transactional data being within AWS when we're headed there. And it's putting data quality at the edge. So now that we have our data governance in place and understanding what data we have, and then as you mentioned earlier, Candace, the sources, it's understanding the data we're receiving and leveraging different tools like Glue to manage the ETL across the spectrum. And we are starting to look into some of the AI and ML processes native to AWS to make sure that we are truly pushing data quality to the edge and we're not creating a data dumpster with our transactional data. We, as part of our migration from our on-prem to AWS, we're doing a heavy assessment on how much data we have, just like everybody else who goes through this process. And right now it's looking like we have close to 500 databases, and we're looking to probably deprecate around 350 or more of those databases, which tells you over 20 plus years how much we've just become inefficient with our data and managing it. I'll put it that way.
Sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a hard process. But the great thing is that you guys are taking a look at it, right? You're looking and you're analyzing and say, we don't need all these silo databases. You probably can consolidate some of them and put them into one database. So that's actually great news to actually hear.
Yeah, and as a part of that, we're obviously using the Glacier product to make sure that we have that data archived and available should something come up where we deprecate a database or data that we actually need access to. So we have a plan to spin it back up if we ever needed to access it or anything like that.
That's right, and we could look at Deep Glacier Archive for even more savings.
Yes, there you go. I like it. Optimization.
All right. So one of the things, you've been in this industry, Beth, for about 20 plus years, right? And you've worn several different hats. What hat do you think prepared you the most for your current role?
I'm going to say, from my perspective and my role specifically, it's the ability to be flexible and having a really strong background in consulting. So when you're consulting, you have to be able to have conversations with all level and cross-functional organizations. You have to be willing to listen and understand to seek to solve with the data points you're given. But if you're not truly listening to those that you're talking to, you may not be hearing what the actual root of the problem is. And so I find by working at Tivity with a consulting background, I'm able to have those conversations with devs and other leaders that we had, technology leaders across the organization and IT, but as well as our business stakeholders, and try to, using my consulting hat, bring all those voices together to help solve for some of those really big problems, whether they're operational process or literally tied technologically to our cloud migration. So it's just a unique background in consulting that I think has helped in a different way that's probably not normal for this type of role, I guess.
Yeah. How about you, Sarah? Would you say that there's a certain role or skill set or something that's kind of helped with your role that you're currently in?
It's interesting because much like Beth, it's what have you needed to do in the past that allowed you to be very thoughtful in aggregating information, because we both came from massive corporations at one point in our careers. And you only have to listen to certain pieces. The bigger the organization, that sounds not necessarily intuitive, and yet you do get into silos of areas of expertise because companies are so big. And at Tivity, you have to listen to everything that's being said and figure out a way to then bring forward the biggest elements of the conversation that need to be shared more broadly. And so I would say that, interestingly enough, I spent 5 years in the county hospital in Las Vegas, and it was a small company that acted like a big one. And so from a very early point, I had to really appreciate what everybody needed, because our budgets were razor thin and we had very few people to do the work. So you basically had to learn how to do all of it as well. And so I'm grateful for, at a young age, really having to pay attention, because it's easy to get distracted, especially nowadays.
Yep, that's very true. We all have our phones. How many screens are in front of you right now? Just wondering.
So, we do have our question of the day, and maybe let's see if anyone from our audience was paying attention. So we want you guys to name 3 services Tivity was using in their data platform. So again, name 3 services that Tivity Health was using in their data platform. If you know the answer, you can drop it in the chat.
And they were using more than 3, so you should be able to come up with 3.
It definitely was more than 3. Yes. All right. So, while people are thinking or anything like that, again, I really enjoyed working with both Sarah and Beth. Again, I thought their relationship, they had such a dynamic relationship, and it's very inspirational and role model for other women to be able to see that. And I love the way that you both empower each other, as well as I love the approach that Tivity Health takes with their leadership being, how much percentage are women, Sarah? I forgot.
36.
I believe the answer is 46.
Yes. Okay.
I wasn't sure, but that's a great place. And if you guys are hiring, we definitely want to make sure that we highlight that, let people know so they could drop. See, there it goes, Tivity Health. There goes the URL in case you guys would like to look anything up and apply.
So I know there's some roles. Excuse me. I know there's some roles out there, both with IT and much broader across Tivity. So. And it is truly a place where we live and breathe our core values every day. And I can't speak highly enough of that. But then also helping to make lives healthier for others is so important to us.
So while we're waiting for questions to come in, or an answer to the question of the day, name 3 services Tivity Health used in their data platform. By the way, that's what we're asking for. And if you do, you'll win a prize. But while we're waiting for those to come in, Beth, can you talk a little bit about work-life balance, or how you do live those values of Tivity Health in your day-to-day life?
Yes, I'm going to fall back on one of my mentors from about 5 or 6 years ago taught me this saying about work-life integration, that a true work-life balance is almost setting us up for failure, because there may not ever be such a thing. But work-life integration, the ability, now that we're especially all working from home, like right now, my 2 kids are home from school. How do I balance that while I'm still on meetings and things like that? And it's the 30-second break I have between Zoom calls to go say, hey, how was your day? And come back to my computer to be on time to the next call. And it's how to strategically integrate those little conversations into your workday that, back in the days we were all in the office, and some people probably are back in the office. How do you integrate work and life and create a balance differently with a way of viewing it that I think is probably creating that space for success or feeling of success? Because there are nights where I'm plugged into work, and there's, mornings where I'm plugged into my kids if I'm taken to an appointment or something like that. And it's the give and take of the integration.
Yeah. And I guess, Sarah, we asked you the same question as well.
My bandwidth is terrible, so if it keeps breaking up, I apologize. What's interesting is the integration component, because right now I'm in a hotel in Washington, D.C. I got here yesterday for a conference, which is great. And just making sure that you put things that are most important first, whatever that is, because you can't do it all at the same time. So make sure you find the spaces for the things that matter the most, and then have the people around you know what the expectation is. So it's unsaid. Like if anybody's on the road, Beth's in charge, and if Beth's on the road and I'm on the road, then it goes to the next person, the next person. So we put people in charge all over the place so that we can get all the things done we need to do. And then you come back and you share all the tidbits from where you were. And at home, it's the same. Like my husband and I have animals and, house plants and all those kinds of things. And so I'm like, hey, I haven't seen them since like 4 or 5 days ago. So I was like, you got all this. I'll see you on Wednesday night. He's like, okay. So, you just take turns and always make sure people feel appreciated. When you get back from vacation and someone's been in charge, send them something that they love as a thank you so that they know that you care. And that goes for work and personal.
That's a very good idea. No, thank you guys for those tips. I actually need to do a little bit more of that myself because I am a firm believer of work life. I'm not going to say balance because I always say balance, but I do like the integration. I think I'm going to start using that word instead. But no, thank you guys. So just to let people know, some of the services that were leveraged, we had Lambda, Fargate, Glue. What else did we have?
SageMaker. Woo.
Mm-hmm.
SageMaker.
Aurora. Postgres. Yeah.
Aurora.
Yeah.
EC2.
No.
Oh.
All right then. So we definitely enjoyed having both Beth and Sarah, our surprise guest to our show. Hopefully we can have you guys back live to discuss additional topics at a later date. Candace, what's happening in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I just updated our page where you can go to RSVP for upcoming shows. So you can go check it out right here. But in 2 weeks, we have Dawn Peelstick, who's a VP from Mutual of Omaha, who's going to talk a little bit about the business use case about modernizing their telephony, like their contact center. It happened just in time for COVID, so we'll get a lot of information about that. And then 2 weeks later, we're going to be at reInvent. So we hope to see some of you at reInvent.
Yes. So thank you guys again for joining, and we hope to have you back again soon. All right. Take care, everyone.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.